Hello everybody. I decided to make a do-it-yourself video on how to replace a wheel bearing hub for a 2007 Nissan Pathfinder. I saw some pretty good videos online, but there were a couple things that were lacking in my opinion, and so I thought I'd make a video that would help if you're a do-it-yourself type of guy like me. So one thing I'll mention, if you also have this year of Pathfinder, and I believe most years are similar, but one thing you'll need is a 32 millimeter socket, and that is for your axle nut. I already did a little bit of work on this, but first thing you want to do is you want to remove the cap. This just pops out. I used a pocket knife around the edge, just popped it out. And then inside, I apologize, you can't see very well, but there is a cotter pin in there. When you're taking yours off, you'll be able to see it. And you just want to make sure that it's nice and snug in there. That way, your socket will fit over it. Now, the reason for that, you'll take it out later, but you want to break it loose just like you would do your lug nuts before you jack up the vehicle off the ground. Now, I already broke it loose, and I used just a makeshift breaker bar in order to break it loose. I recommend you do that while it's still on the ground, because if you wait like I did, I already did the left side, and you're going to have a hard time breaking those loose because the axle is going to turn with it. So go ahead and break that loose. Break your lug nuts loose. Don't take them all the way off. Jack up the vehicle, and then go ahead and take off the lug nuts. I'll do that and come back. Alright, now that you got all your lug nuts off, take off the wheel and tire, and then next thing you're going to work on is your caliper, and you want your brake system to be removed. And so in the back you have two bolts, one right here, and I don't know if you can see that, but there's another down here, and it's going to be a 19 millimeter socket. And so, alright, so I pulled off the caliper. Again, we just pulled off these two bolts back here, and then I set the whole caliper with the pads, everything up top. So the next thing you want to do is you want to take off your axle nut, and as you can see, you have a cotter pin that I told you about. You can see it better here now. And so you just peel this back. So I just used some needle nose pliers, bent it straight, and then it comes right out. But there you have it. There's the cotter pin. Set that aside. And then you just take off your, since you already loosened it up, it's easy. Alright, the nut's off, so next thing you want to do is give it a few whacks with a good hammer, good mallet. Just be careful not to damage the face, obviously, where the brake pads are going to go, so give it a few whacks. Just like so. And your rotor comes right off. Next thing you want to do is, there are 4 bolts in the back, and from the front you can see the top 2 right here. There's 2 exactly on the other side, or on the bottom. Alright, so 2 bolts here and 2 bolts in the bottom. So those 4 bolts have to come out. That is what's holding your bearing hub in place. So I broke one loose, but I just wanted to show you real quick this to go after the bottom front. It's easier to go in from the back, and what I'm using is a 17mm socket and a 3-inch extension, and of course we have it on a ratchet. Alright, so I got those 4 bolts removed. What I saw in the other tutorial videos, it was just pointed out concerning this line here. I believe it's some kind of speed sensor, I don't know, but I had the hardest time taking this part out. Again, this is when I did the left side. What I found out without actually breaking the thing is you have to depress this little button. It's hard to see because it's corroded, but there's a little button here because it's just a snap mechanism, just like normal connectors. Once it goes down, it snaps in place. There's a little lip right about here on the inside of this wire harness, and so you depress that and then the thing pops out. Since the new one has this, I just popped the whole thing off without worrying about breaking it. And let's see if I can do it here. Alright, well, I got it off, but I damaged it a little bit, so don't follow that example. And so the next thing you want to do is you want to remove the bearing hub. And so what you do, just give it a few whacks. So you can give it a few whacks, and what's going to happen is it's going to start separating right here. And then when it starts to separate, then you can use a screwdriver. I used a crowbar, and just tap something in there to wedge it, and then it'll start to break free, and I'll come back and I'll show you when it starts to do that. Alright, well, hopefully you can see it started to create a gap here. You can fit something in there, like a screwdriver or a crowbar, and loosen it up the rest of the way and it'll come right off. Just broke it free, so that comes loose, and then it should slip right off the axle. Alright, just pulled it off, and this plate just comes off, and you can just set it aside. That's the final part as far as taking it apart. Lastly, you just might want to clean up if there's any rust or dirt or debris. Clean it up, and you're ready to reassemble with the new parts. I'll be back. Here's the new part, and we're going to go ahead and put that on. So just like the old one, situates right there. Alright, got this back on, got the new one on, that is. 4 bolts in, and then just remember you have a little home for this in the back, so that clips in there, and then that goes like so. This goes down like so, then it goes up. Oh, apologize for the poor camera work, but that goes like so. Come back around. These clip together. Apologize, it's hard to do one-handed. Alright, got those in together. And then the new part comes with these clips. They just go back in these holes. You can't really see it too well, but you just pop them back in. All right. Next thing to do is to get the nut back on, and put the nut back on. Put the cotter pin back in place. Get it on as tight as you can without the wheel. Once you let down the vehicle, then we'll tighten it up more. But we'll get the pin in. We'll get the brakes on get the rest of the thing together. All right, I'll be back. All right, I got the bolt back on. I got it as tight as I could with you know, as you can see, the whole thing turns, so I got it as tight as I could, holding on to the bolts there. Got the cotter pin back in, bent around. That way that can still fit in. I'll need to tighten that up later. But I'm going to clean up the rotor with some brake cleaner, get the caliper back on, and we'll be ready to put on the wheel. Alright, got the caliper back on. Time to put on the wheel. Alright, so I got my wheel back on, and then what I did is I lowered it down just enough to give, just so there's enough pressure so the wheel wouldn't turn. I gave my axle nut another turn using the breaker bar, and so it's nice and snug. And then all I need to do now is tighten down the lug nuts the rest of the way. Give those, make sure those are nice and snug. Put my cap back on. I'm done with that. So that's all there is to it. Hope you enjoyed the video, and I don't really care if you like it or subscribe, but I just thought it would be nice to have a video for you. Again, you can get the parts for, you can get a set of 2 front wheel bearing hubs on Amazon for just around $100. And you can rent what you need at your local parts store, and that's about it. Have a great day.